Here's something wild to consider. The same level of AI capability that cost you $100 a year ago now costs $1. Intelligence is becoming cheap, radically cheap, and that changes everything about how we should be thinking about the future. Welcome to episode number 955 of the Super Data Science Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Krohn. Today, for the fifth year in a row, we're kicking the year off by welcoming the inimitable Sadie St. to the show to predict the 5 biggest trends in AI for 2026. We recap how she did on her predictions for 2025. We bestow 4 awards for 2025, our biggest wow moment, comeback of the year, disappointment of the year, and overall winner. And then we'll get a glimpse at the year ahead, in which intelligence will be vastly cheaper than ever before, transforming work and play for all of us. Look out. This episode of Super Data Science is made possible by Dell, Intel, Fabi, and MongoDB. Sadie St. welcome back to the Super Data Science Podcast. It's your umpteenth time on the podcast. It's too many to count. I can't go back through and count them all. It's been too many. How are you doing this time?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we don't want to count. We don't want to age ourselves, but if you've been here from the beginning, thank you.
Right,
this is how I know it's coming to the end of the year and a new year is beginning, is when I see Jon pop up in my texts.
Yeah, well, I think this must be the 4th year in a row that we're doing this predictions episode for the coming year. You are an esteemed futurist with your crystal ball. This past year, you did a fantastic TEDx talk with some great thoughts about what the future of human-machine collaboration should be like. And so I'll have a link to that in the show notes, but I don't know if there's something, do you want to kind of give us a high-level overview of that TED Talk?
Yeah, no, that was super fun to do. The main point of it is spoiler alert, so plug your ears if you were going to watch it and want to know. But the whole point is we should ask hard questions that we normally don't ask. And our future is closer than we think. So, a long time ago, I read the book, The Singularity is Near, and I went through a thought experiment of okay, what actually happens if it is near and we are getting closer to that? And shouldn't we be figuring out what that future may look like? Regardless of if it happens or doesn't, we should start to ask the questions of what would happen if we merged our consciousness with AI, which leads to the overall question that everyone comes back to, which is, what is consciousness? And so it's more about asking the hard questions and diving into areas of science that we still have yet to uncover and figure out, which hopefully AI can help us do too.
Yeah, so you get into biological consciousness, you get into what it would be like to merge with a machine and what that experience might be like to have machine thoughts in your stream of consciousness, and what it could be like to take actions through a machine with your brain, initiated by your brain. And I just brought it up on my screen here. It is really popular. You've got over 300 comments, 1,000 likes, over 30,000 views. That is very cool, Sadie. Nice work.
Thank you.
So yeah, generating a lot of conversation. And consciousness, not totally a random topic for you to be talking about on the TED stage, because consciousness is a big part of your life lately. You've started a new business. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so in 2023, I, as like many people working with AI, start to ask questions that I hadn't asked in a while, right? Questions like, what is machine intelligence and what really is emotion and consciousness? And I realized I want to get back to research, but I wanted to do research differently, and doing research differently meant like an independent research firm. And so I started the Human Machine Collaboration Institute, HMCI. And our whole goal was just let's find some tough problems to solve and see what we can come up with. Really focused around our end goal is figuring out how to create a unified theory of consciousness, but starting with smaller problems first to get to that point. One of the things that we found was a problem that kept coming up for a lot of our team was it's really hard for small to medium cities to not only adapt technology, but adapt it in their ecosystems and in their economics. And so we came up with a model to help with that. It's an IR2 model, Intelligent Revenue Reinvestment Model, that takes funding from energy and data centers and reinvests it back into the community through upskilling workforce, research, and infrastructure. That got the likes of NVIDIA. And they said, hey, we really like what you were doing. We'd like to partner with you on a flagship model in California to build out one of these ecosystems. And so we were able to get that kicked off this year and are looking to scale it to additional cities next year, along with our research inference clusters. So I had a secret kind of fantasy to have secret think tanks across the world. And while they may not be secret or they may not be in forests, they will be in research inference clusters that will plug into these ecosystems as well and tie together to be able to do more research for local economies. So really exciting stuff.
So the Human Machine Collaboration Institute, and you're like a year old, and you already have this big partnership with NVIDIA that is allowing you to have these these are physical centers where people can go in person.
So physical and digital, like one of the things that we're building with the Rancho AI and robotics ecosystem is an actual digital twin. So while there is physical space that we have that people can come and get training and do research, a lot of, for all of us working in AI, we know most of the work that we do is in a digital space. So the physical space is the hardware that we use, and then the rest of the collaboration happens in a digital ecosystem.
Cool. That is amazing, Sadie. You never stop. For people who aren't aware, Sadie already created an organization called Women in Data, which you now sit on the board of, I believe, but you for a long time ran that organization and grew to hundreds of thousands of members across dozens of chapters all over the world. You probably have the latest stats.
Yeah, so a little over 70,000 individuals, 55 chapters in a total of 100 plus countries are membership representation. So it was another exciting year for Women in Data because we started to partner with Women in Analytics and we collaborate on the Data Connect conferences. So really said, hey, let's come together, combine our superpowers. And it's been a great partnership with Women in Analytics. And as you know, Reagan is just an awesome individual as well.
Reagan is an awesome individual. So Reagan runs the Women in Analytics organization. It's so cool that you two have partnered. If people want to get to know Reagan Avon, they can check out episode number 698. She is fantastic, brilliant person at bringing AI into the real world, driving a lot of commercial value and bringing, with now Women in Data, a lot of community as well. Really cool. Now, that's not all that you've done in the past year. You've also been slaving away on your first book, which just came out. And so by the time this episode is out, people should be able to go to Barnes and Noble or Amazon or wherever you buy your books, and you should be able to get delivered in presumably like a 24-hour regular shipping cycle that we have these days, a copy of Sadie's first book, which is called Becoming an AI Orchestrator, a business professional's guide to leading, creating, and thriving in the age of intelligence. I am the series editor for this book, so I'm intimately familiar with it. I read it. I loved it. It is such a great book. It brings your own personal experiences with AI, but not in a way that's self-indulgent, but in a way that is highly practical and generalizable to broad audiences. It's a very easy to read, easy to understand book that provides anyone. So this book, it doesn't have code in it. Mm-hmm. It is a book that anyone can pick up and figure out how they can, with code or click and point interfaces, become an AI orchestrator and have you as an individual or your organization be able to harness the power of AI agents, of generative AI, and completely transform your life.
Yeah. Well, first I have to give a big shout out to you, Jon, because I would have not written a book without you telling me I should. I didn't think I was ready to write a book and introducing me to Deborah and the team over at Pearson. So thank you for motivating me to get that done and doing a very thoughtful review of the book. But yeah, it was so fun to write this book because immediately when I started using modern day AI tools, I realized my workflow was changing and just like my whole mindset and how I work had to change. And that's really the basis behind becoming an AI orchestrator is changing your role from being a musician in the orchestra to being that conductor and conducting with AIs and allowing yourself to do more. And if anybody, like, live and breathe that, because we were a team of 3 people at HMCI and we are all very much AI empowered. And the only way we could have done that is through having multiple AI agents and co-pilots and help at our disposal continually. So hopefully the book shares some of those best practices that other people can take and use for their own and build their own whole AI orchestra.
Yeah, it's fantastic, an invaluable one. I can't wait to share this with all kinds of people in and out of our industry. I have some people that I know that are just going to love getting their hands on this book. And the ones that I think of that I'm most excited to send this to are people who are outside of our industry, because people in our industry, I think a lot of us have, we maybe have already tinkered around a lot with these tools, maybe even implemented solutions for enterprises or whatever that involve agentic AI. And so, yeah, really cool for me to be able to send this to people who, for whom it'll be kind of terra incognita, and they can, really make a really big impact on their own lives with it. So again, the book title is Becoming an AI Orchestrator. And at the time that this episode is released, it is available wherever you get your books. Very cool. Congratulations, Sadie. I can't wait to see what your future books
Thank you.
are all about. All right. So this episode, as I alluded to earlier on, is an episode that recaps, the main point isn't recapping. The main point is making predictions for 2026, but we will recap your predictions for 2025. So I believe you had 5 last year, if my notes are correct.
Yes, that sounds about right. I do like numbers of 3s and 5s, so it sounds and it was 2025, so I feel like it's very much a fitting number.
Yeah. And so what I have down as number 1 was that agentic AI will be the dominant trend in 2025, and I feel like that's a no-brainer to say that is correct. Do you have any thoughts or any data to back you up on how your results unfolded on that one?
Yeah, I think everybody doesn't want to hear about agentic AI at a conference anymore. So I don't know if it's concrete data or more just the vibes of where the people are at, which is, please don't tell us about how you have an agentic AI conference, because we're ready for something new and fresh in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a pretty good data point on how big it was. It was such a dominant trend in 2025 that nobody wants to hear about agentic AI in 2026. Although I will say, I still think, I mean, it just becomes more and more useful. It's like every couple months it goes by, the length of a human task that an agentic AI system can replace a human on, that length of time doubles every 7 months. So right now we're at a point where you can get about a 50% reliability. So about 50% of the time you're going to get a result that you're happy with on tasks in software development or machine learning that would take a human software developer or a human machine learning expert several hours to do. And given this 7-month doubling, you can anticipate that by the end of 2026, it's going to be more like 8 hours, full workday.
Which is crazy to think about, right? So that's when everybody keys up the discussions around replacement and what this means for the workforce. And I know it's difficult to imagine at this point, but when you really calculate out the curve and just calculate out the hours of what somebody can do, I mean, that's a whole different scenario that we could talk about.
Yeah, it is very hard. When you're standing on an exponential curve, you perceive it linearly, which is a really funny thing for a human brain to do. Our brains weren't designed for exponential technological growth. There's been no living species in the history of the known universe that has had to deal with exponential technological growth before. And so it's really hard. I really, even though this is what I'm doing day in, day out, I struggle to kind of accept how much different life is going to be in the future.
Well, and I think that's one of the big problems we have, which is nobody really knows what it looks like, right? Even AGI, we don't even really have a grasp on if we reach that, what would that look like? Or artificial superintelligence. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues is there's not a clear picture for what that looks like yet.
In data science, the right hardware is essential for performance. This episode of Super Data Science is sponsored by Dell Technologies and Intel. Dell's latest AI PCs and workstations powered by Intel Core Ultra processors feature dedicated AI acceleration on the chip. This delivers faster inferencing, smoother multitasking, and longer battery life, even with demanding local models. Your hardware won't hold you back, whether you're prototyping in PyTorch or pushing production workloads. See how Dell AI PCs with Intel Core Ultra fit your workflow at dell.com/shoppcs. That's dell.com/SHOPPCS. Dell and Intel, designed for how data scientists really work. Yeah, and I guess we may never really be able to wrap our heads around it at all if it is kind of like the staircase of intelligence analogy where, we would never be able to in a million years explain to a chimpanzee how to do calculus. And a chimpanzee is like almost as intelligent as us. And if this artificial superintelligence is vastly more intelligent than us, such that we are like insects compared to it, then, there's no hope for us really understanding it. But I don't know. There's all kinds of, not everyone feels like intelligence. It might not be the case that intelligence works like that.
And there may be the case. I mean, there may be the case that we actually don't really even care, right? Like maybe the whole point is that we never even know that we are the dumb ones, right? Because in our whole world, we are what exists in our world, right? So that's how I see more humans being and behaving. Is typically we put ourselves at the top no matter what, whether that's the case or not.
Right. I get you there. All right. So I'm getting way too deep on your 2025 predictions and kind of getting into looking ahead already. Your second 2025 prediction was that AI integration into everyday devices will accelerate. And you gave some specific examples like augmented reality glasses, real-time translation. How did that one come along in 2025 relative to what you were expecting, Sadie?
Yeah, so we did see the AirPods come out with the real-time translation, which I think for an everyday device, it's probably one of the biggest tech everyday devices beyond like our cell phones. Obviously, we have AI in our cell phones. I still see Apple kind of being a disappointment in that space. I would love to see more of it as a highlight. But I do see a lot of AI and tools trying. I don't know if any of them did it really well, though, is what I would say. So, I did see it in my toothbrush that I was purchasing at Costco, and realized, that's not a place that I want AI in. But I did see a lot of kind of everyday products trying to put it in. I went to what's the big conference in January in Las Vegas where all the new tech comes out?
Is that the consumer?
Yeah, something with a C.
Consumer Electronics Show, CES?
Yes, CES. So CES had it pretty much in every refrigerator, every oven, everywhere you went. And I realized this is not how I want my AI to behave. So I did see it. Do I think it was a good decision? No.
Right. All right. So whether for better or for worse, I think more integration is coming. Your number 3 prediction was AI-driven scientific research will expand significantly. How's that one coming in 2025, Sadie?
So this one was interesting. There was a paper that came out and it showed that like 39% more material sciences discoveries had been found because of AI, all of this great growth. And that paper actually got redacted this year. So while there was good research from it, I guess it wasn't that great of research because the paper did get redacted. But we did see some cool things with DeepMind in terms of their genome project. They were able to compress about 800 years of different material discoveries into what could be done in a couple hours and a few steps. And so, again, a few things still happening from the DeepMind perspective, but otherwise papers redacted, and I think will take a little bit longer to see.
Nice. So that sounds like still correct, but maybe not as emphatic as the first two. Number 4 is that enterprise AI monetization will be crucial. How did that one go?
Yeah, so if you've seen the stats, you're probably having deja vu from the big data era and the cloud era where everybody says, 80% of data and AI projects fail. And so we see the same thing now happening in the AI space where a lot of organizations are throwing a lot of money in AI, but not understanding how to implement it properly. And they have a lot of projects stuck in MVPs, but not a lot going to production. And so this is something that I see is just going to continue to be a trend where people are going to start asking, what is the ROI on this versus are we all rushing off a cliff to just stamp that we're doing Gen AI?
Yeah, there's a lot of stamp happening, but I think it is really important. And I say this with a huge amount of bias as someone running a consulting company that helps enterprises get agentic AI and other kinds of solutions in their business. But talking about that curve, that exponential curve that we were talking about earlier, if today you can get 50% reliability on a task that would take a human 2 hours to do, and you're looking at 4 hours mid-year next year, 8 hours by the end of the year, by the end of 2026, those differences start to make a huge difference in terms of the kinds of tasks that you can replace in an organization. And then another way of thinking about it is that behind that curve of the 50% success rate, there will be another one that's at like 90% and another one at 99%. And so, maybe we're a couple of years away from being able to have an 8 hour task, a complex 8 hour task done in computer science or machine learning at a 99% reliability rate. And that is obviously a vastly different kind of paradigm. And all the while, the cost of compute is dropping like crazy. Like that's the if there's like one thing that you've got to get into your head, there's all kinds of things that happen around you where you're like, oh, it's annoying that inflation is eating into my savings.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be so great if my money became more valuable over time. Like, where is some place where I can bet, where I can be sure that this trend is going in the right direction? And there's no bigger thing that I can think of than intelligence is becoming crazy cheap. Intelligence, which for all of living history was this incredibly scarce resource, is becoming very inexpensive, very cheap, and that changes everything. And so think about how can you be leveraging, if it's not cheap enough today for some application that you can think of, it will be in the future. And it will be very quickly, because the trend that we're on right now is that the same level of intelligence, the same level of capability costs 100 times less today than it did a year ago.
No, and I think that going back to your point of it's hard for us to understand exponential curves, right? We see things very linearly. How do you rethink about your business and think about it when intelligence is almost exponentially getting cheaper too, right? Like that causes you to rethink your complete business model. So I'm excited for the new businesses that are going to come out of it because it is somewhat a green field, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, looking just at businesses like Cursor, right? Where, we're seeing people get to millions, if not billions of dollars in reoccurring revenue at rates that we've never seen before. And I think part of that has to do because of this exponential growth of intelligence.
Right. For sure. Cursor, cool tool that I also started using this year myself personally. I like it a lot. Okay, fifth and final prediction that you had for 2025 was that the demand for AI engineering skills will surpass the demand for traditional data science skills. Did that bear out, Sadie?
Yeah, so I looked at a quick kind of jobs report from LinkedIn, and they showed skills and keywords that were on the rise and ones that weren't. And just kind of overall, back to also, we have a lot of CEOs who just are adding Gen AI and stamping it on. We're also seeing a lot of AI stamped onto job descriptions as well. And so much higher growth in what we're seeing for AI prompting, AI engineering skills, particularly compared to data science skills. So check out the LinkedIn jobs report. It's a great way, I think, just to kind of see what's trending. Think of it kind of like Google search keywords, but for what's happening in the job world and what's happening on job descriptions.
That is really interesting and big implications for all of our listeners who are trying to have the most relevant skills of the moment. And actually, so this is going back to the beginning of the year, but I did do an episode number 856 talking about the fastest growing job in most developed countries in the world, and that was AI engineer. So more in that episode on the kinds of skills that you can be developing, listener, in order to, be super employable. And I don't know how you feel about this, Sadie, but to me, it's kind of obvious that AI engineer is kind of like a subspecialization of data scientists that has emerged. Um, and, not really a completely distinct area, but it's kind of how I perceive it.
I personally think the data scientists created a family of jobs. So when I got into the field in 2014, it was thought that you were like this unicorn, and everybody knew we were putting way too much on like the role data scientist, because you're supposed to do everything from data engineering to data visualization to being an ML engineer and building out these models, also taking it to production, so doing ML ops. Like, those jobs that I just described really didn't exist when the data scientist got created. The data scientist was that. And then we realized, oh, most people aren't a full stack data scientist. And we can actually move faster if we split this into particular roles like ML ops, ML engineering, etc. What I'm seeing happen is not only did the data scientists breed out a family of jobs and 5 different job descriptions, but now we're seeing it change, like just a rebrand from ML to AI. And what's funny is I was reading the book Thinking Machines, highly recommend that book to anyone. And they do a whole history on AI, and they didn't want to call it AI back in the 2010s because they didn't think anybody would take it seriously. So to avoid that, they called it machine learning. And now we're back to the term AI. So I found it humorous that like they came up with the term machine learning as a way to get away from AI. But here we all are back to AI to begin with.
Wow, that looks like a cool book. So it's a 2016 book by Luke Dormel about the history of AI.
Yes.
I like that.
A big portion of it is about NVIDIA and really like their leadership in it.
That's a different book. That's a different book. Okay, gotcha. That's by Stephen Witz.
Yes.
It turns out a bunch of people have named their book Thinking Machines, something more. So this one is Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, and the World's Most Coveted Microchip by Stephen Witt. Cool. I'll have that for folks in the show notes.
Yeah, it's surprisingly if you really want a history on AI since the 90s. To me, the book is more about a really more detailed history of AI and the hardware that supported it to get us to this point. So, great read.
Are you tired of spending weeks building dashboards that your stakeholders never use? Well, suffer no more, because Fabi.ai was built to solve this. Instead of hoping your business partners will check another dashboard, Fabi lets you meet them where they already are. With Fabi, you can automate the delivery of insights directly into your stakeholders' workflows, including Slack, email, and spreadsheets. This makes a big impact. One Fabi client eliminated 30 hours per week of manual data work by automating their alerts to Slack, while another reduced self-service requests to their data team by 90%. Now that's nice. Visit Fabi.ai today to see how AI-native analytics can transform your data team's impact for free. That's Fabi.ai. Nice. Fantastic. All right. So that wraps up your predictions for 2025. We ended up going off on a lot of tangents and doing some forward-looking stuff. Before we get to your 2026 predictions, we're going to do what we did for the first time last year and that I personally love doing. I think our audience loved it as well. Do reach out to us on LinkedIn and let us know how much you like or don't like the next segment so that we can evaluate how much we emphasize it or maybe expand it in the future or maybe stop doing it. But had a lot of fun. So last year we gave out awards. Well, you and I picked winners. We didn't actually create awards or send them to anyone, but we awarded 4 things for the past year. So there's our wow moment of the year is number 1. Number 2 is the comeback of the year. Number 3 is our disappointment of the year. And number 4 is our overall winner in AI, I guess, data science over the past year. So let's do wow moment first. Do you want to do yours first or do you want me to do mine?
I'm ready. So let's
go. Yeah, do it.
So my wow moment for the year was Nano Banana, particularly because that's where I felt the biggest change in image generation from last year to this year. And particularly for me, I'm remodeling our house. And so to take an image of a room and say, what would it look like with this tile floor sample, and throw in the sample, and like how accurate it is was really mind blowing. And particularly as you know how those models work, you don't have a ton of control over them. And so the fact that it was able to replace the floor with my tile, I think also because I got a lot of use out of it this year, it definitely has been my newest sidekick, but also like a ton of help. What's been your wow?
Nano Banana Pro did pop into my head as my potential wow moment of the year, Sadie. It is very impressive, but I spent some time reflecting on this and trying to think over the whole year. And my big wow moment came in the spring when Ed Donner and I were developing a full day talk, a full day workshop for the Open Data Science Conference East, ODSC East in Boston. And the demo that we came up with and Ed developed and delivered. So we kind of over the course of the whole day, we taught people what we perceive as the key agentic AI frameworks that people need to know. And so we started off by teaching the OpenAI Agents SDK to show people how you can get an individual agent up and running with guardrails, doing the kinds of tasks that you want it to be doing. Then we taught them MCP, Model Context Protocol, for equipping their agent with tools that they can use. And then the third thing is we introduced them to Crew AI so that they can get a team of AI agents now working with their tools, thanks to MCP, all working together on some particular task. And what Ed did at the end, so it kind of like over the course of the day, the sophistication of the hands-on demos that Ed delivered got more and more complex. But by the end of the day, he had a team of software developer agents. So there were four of them, if I'm remembering correctly. There was a front-end developer, a back-end developer, a tester, and a project manager. And so each of those four agents had different context to work with, had different tools that they could use, kind of different specializations, as things like the front end, back end developer distinction would suggest. And Ed used that crew of agents to create a trading platform. And this trading platform worked. So it was a trading platform where you could send buy orders, sell orders. It would simulate the stock market, and then you could buy or sell any given stock on a real stock market. Well, this you weren't trading on a real stock market; it was simulated, but it was all the stocks, say on Nasdaq, available to you to trade with, and you're using the real time price information in order to be able to trade these simulated portfolios. And then he created a crew of trading agents named after famous traders, and each of those agents had that famous trader's kind of style. And then those traders used the software platform that the crew of agents had built, and it's that kind of like it blows my mind that works. Like this was a robust, sophisticated trading platform, and the team of software developers of fake, these aren't real people. These are agents. They created this thing over the lunch break. So he set it off running right before we took a 90-minute lunch break. And when we came back in the afternoon, the software platform worked. And that's crazy to me.
Now, if I can add a honorable mention to a wow moment, that would definitely be Lovable. And what they've done with their platform is very similar to what you're describing with the team of agents. It's really that, but for front-end development. I mean, I redid our website for HMCI really with one prompt, and then there was some, so you can go to our website and let me know if you like it or not, because it literally only took like one prompt. But overall, it's just incredible. Like I feel so old Jon, I'm like, I remember the day when I was editing code for my MySpace, or I was like even using Squarespace and felt like it was so much further ahead in terms of like drag and drop website development. And now it's like one prompt with a team of agents, and you have a whole website, a whole platform, and you're good to go. So
I've got it up here. The hmci.ai website looks pretty good. Pretty good.
built by a bunch of agents, and thank you, Lovable.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. Really cool. All right. So that's our wow moment of the year. Ooh, congrats to the winners. Wow. We're going to skip their speeches and move right on to the next category. So the second category for our 2025 awards, Sadie, is Comeback of the Year. And I think you and I actually let it slip to each other before we started recording. So most of these, we don't know what the other is going to say. But for Comeback of the Year, it's just so obvious. I don't know how anyone could argue with us on this one. And we have the same one. Do you want to tell the audience what it is?
Yeah, not only do we have the same one, but this was our same one from last year. So we have
right.
not changed at all in this. So any of your guesses, but we are both solid on Google. I mean, not only did they come back last year, but they're coming back even stronger than ever this year. And I think just not only the suite of tools that they have, but you know what I've been most impressed with was how they've integrated into search and integrated into G Suite, and just I think they've done a really great job of integrating it into their existing products in a really thoughtful way that doesn't distract from the old way of working, and has honestly, in my opinion, been really seamless. Like I continue to find myself using the AI answers more and more and more, and that's becoming my standard. And I think a lot of people last year were really curious of like, what is Google going to do? Are they going to eat their own business? Like, how's it all going to turn out? And so beyond just like, talking about Nano Banana and their new model developments, they're doing a really great job of integrating it into their existing products, which kudos to Google, because that's no small feat.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've mentioned on air. Have I mentioned this on air? I'm not 100% sure. I think I have. I've definitely talked about this in my personal life, my professional life, personally, is that the other thing about Google that I think they have a big advantage on relative to some of the other frontier labs like OpenAI and Anthropic is that a lot of people already trust Google with their Google Office suite, Google Drive, Gmail. You already have a lot of data in there. And so, for me personally, I have the most cutting edge models and subscriptions from all three of those providers, and I use them for different purposes. It doesn't make sense to me to connect Anthropic or OpenAI to my Google Drive and give all of that information as access when I already have a cutting edge frontier model that does. Like, why should I give myself that extra risk?
Exactly. And I think, back to like, yes, they took their time. And I think it was really important for them to think about how it integrates with their existing suite. I will say that's my biggest regret with starting my new company is with Women in Data, we use G Suite, and with HMCI, I switched over to Microsoft. Ugh, don't do it. Don't do it. If I can make any recommendation, I should have stayed with G Suite. So that's my biggest regret in the new company is like, why did we switch over and start on Microsoft? So maybe it's not too late.
Are you doing Teams meetings?
We are doing, yes, it's horrible.
Oh, no.
I know. What was I thinking?
Oh,
I thought
Lord.
I'd be cool and try something new. It wasn't smart, but speaking of Google, though, would highly recommend if you haven't watched it, the Thinking Game documentary. So it is on, I know it is on Prime, but it's about just DeepMind, and it starts from the beginning days when they started the lab and then Google taking it over. So yeah, if you really want to get them, again, I must be into history lately, because if you want a history on DeepMind, it's a great documentary.
It looks like it is available in full on YouTube for free.
Amazing.
Which doesn't surprise me because it seems like it's a Google product to have created this film. So yeah, it looks like 10 days ago at the time of recording, it became available. An hour and 24 minutes, 25 million views, published by Google DeepMind. I will have a link to that in the show notes so that anyone anywhere can watch it for free. All right, great recommendation there. So comeback of the year. Congratulations again, Google. Maybe next year it will be somebody else. How many times can you come back? All right, disappointment of the year. It's interesting because you earlier in this episode, you used a company name and the word disappointment in the same sentence. So is that company?
This one may be controversial. I may think you're going to disagree with me on this, Jon, but I'll explain myself. And so I'm just going to say for me, actually, agents were disappointing. And I wrote a Substack this year called Agents of Disappointment.
Take her off the air. Take her off the air. Where's the abort button?
If all of a sudden I get muted, you'll know why, right?
All right. And that brings us to the end of the episode.
Yes, exactly. No, so I wrote a post this year as my best performing Substack called Agents of Disappointment. But really what I was talking about was the divide between like the hype of agents, and really where I saw this come into disappointment was from the enterprise companies. We have obviously Salesforce has been talking about its agents force for some time. You have SAP, you have all of these enterprise companies who have been talking about how to implement agents into your existing enterprise tools. And it just doesn't work, right? Or at least a lot of companies aren't set up for it properly, or in my mind, don't know how to think about how to structure them properly and what to have agents do. And so from that standpoint, from like an enterprise agent standpoint, I think the hype and the practicality of the implementation, the divide between those two was too great. And so that was my disappointment of 2025.
I totally get it. And I don't disagree with you. It makes a lot of sense to me. There's too much talk about agentic AI relative to the impact that it's making. No question. I do think that a lot of it is related to people not having their data silos set up in a way, or the security set up in a way where they're comfortable with it. But a lot of tinkering with agents, not nearly as many enterprise deployments. But I do think it will come. That is not my disappointment of the year. My disappointment of the year is Apple.
I think you were disappointed with Apple last year. We got to go back. Let's look.
Oh.
I think, because Apple, did they announce Apple Intelligence last year, or was that a this year thing? I don't know. Time is weird in the AI world. I think they did.
I think you're right. I think they announced Apple Intelligence in the autumn, Northern Hemisphere autumn of last year. And it was disappointing. But I mean, I guess it's kind of just like Google. It's like,
and it's still disappointing.
Because it's like a year later. And what can I do additionally with AI in my phone that I actually use? Not much. I once made an emoji and then didn't do it again. Just like used it built-in Gen AI to send an emoji over iMessage. But I don't know. I don't really need to do that. Like it seems like things like just having Siri be able to understand what I'm saying to it in the same way that OpenAI Whisper can. I mean,
who's actually even done better than that is, so I will use Grok in my Tesla. And so when I'm coming home from work and want to like brainstorm something or just learn a new subject, like I just push a button and it works seamlessly and the chat mode goes back and forth, right? And I'm like, okay, if I can do that in my car, why can't I do it on my phone that seamlessly? So I hope that like next year our comeback of the year is Apple, because they've been in the disappointment quarter for far too long.
Yeah, they have a lot of potential because of how ubiquitous their devices are. There's a big opportunity for Apple if they can get it right. Now, I've also got to talk about Grok and XAI because I never talk about them on air, or very rarely, not nearly as much as they deserve, given that they have come to the frontier. I mean, we haven't talked about our overall winner yet, so maybe XAI is your overall winner. So maybe I should save it. But I just want to say that, you mentioning Grok, I even did recently. I did an episode on Google Gemini 3 Pro, and how that, at the time of the episode coming out, at the end of November, it was the top model across most categories as well as overall on the LM Arena. And so, I kind of in that episode make the case that it's the best model. But in terms of ELO score, statistically, even though it had a higher ELO score overall than Grok in LM Arena, the difference in the ELO scores wasn't enough for LM Arena to call that statistically significant. And so technically, Gemini 3 Pro is actually in a tie with Grok, but it made my story, it dragged out, I couldn't make the episode tight and about how Google had been losing to OpenAI and then later Anthropic, and it just became too complex if I threw XAI and Grok in the mix. But yeah, they've done a great job.
I think what's impressive, I have a slide that I've been talking about for years, and I think it's ratemyiq.org, and it rates all of the AI models in a curve. And so I have screenshots from like 2023 to 2025 to now, and it's just so fun to see like how few models there were and just how pretty much everybody has caught up to like the top tier. Not even like the paid private models, but even, I mean, like, this isn't my overall winner, but again, like what's been happening in open source and what came out with DeepSeek, I mean, it's really incredible what access we have now for even free.
Ready to shape the future of AI collaboration? MongoDB is hosting an in-person hackathon in San Francisco on January 10th, focused on building tools and techniques that let AI agents work together toward complex goals. Teams of up to 4 will compete for over $30,000 in cash prizes, and finalists get invited to showcase live at mongodb.local San Francisco on January 15th. You'll pitch to top names in the industry, an opportunity you won't want to miss. Use the code MDBBuilder to get 50% off tickets. Space is limited, so apply now. In the show notes, we've got a link to the MongoDB Agentic Orchestration and Collaboration Hackathon page with more details, including how to apply. Yeah, it really does make you wonder with all these, these crazy amounts of money that need to go in to create a frontier model at the next capability level. And then 6 months later, you have an open source model that can do the same thing. Does raise lots of questions about monetization. Especially if you don't have clear distribution channels at vast scales like Google does. Yes. Interesting indeed. But let's not make the audience wait any longer. It's time for our overall winner of 2025 to be crowned. Oh my God, the audience is losing their minds. Wow, they're out of control. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know. I have no idea what you're going to say. I'm not even 100% sure I have a clear winner. So maybe we can kind of work together to decide on an overall winner between us. Do you want me to say what I'm thinking is my overall winners, or do you want to
go ahead. I have one, but
so I have 2 firms that I have as my overall winner. And so one of them that we've already talked about a lot is Google.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one, which, you've talked about them not too long ago in your book recommendation, the thing that is powering all of these AI models, not all of them, I guess, technically, because Google does have TPUs, but NVIDIA.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is the big winner in AI. They're the overall winner. I mean, look at their share price.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
It's bonkers.
Right? Yeah.
So
they truly are. I would say, I mean, in the AI industry, they truly are just the overall winner in AI, right? Like that is it, right?
Well, that's
because
that's
all
what
roads
we're crowning,
point back
isn't it?
all roads point back to NVIDIA. So I would say they are the overall winner, and will continue to be for some time. I guess my approach to who the overall winner was is I really saw this year as the year of vibes. Like to me, this was the year vibe coding got coined as a term, where I do think agents were and are really useful is in coding. I think that's the one place that we can see them just like take off and do their thing. So for me, maybe it's not the overall winner. I would agree with you is NVIDIA. Maybe my theme, I'm going to add in an extra category, right? Into this 2026, we're getting a new category here. What the theme of the year was. And to me, like, this was such a vibey year. Like, it was just like, everything was about vibes, you know. We didn't have like new model breakthroughs. Like GPT-5 was disappointing. I don't know of anything that people are like anticipating coming out. Like for the previous years, people were like, wait till we get multimodal and then wait till we get agents. I don't know what people are anticipating really next. Like it's just all about vibes. And so that's my theme.
I like that. Makes a lot of sense. All right, our joint winners are NVIDIA and Vibes. Yeah, no, I totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. And also to go into a little bit more detail, a lot of our listeners might already know this, and you definitely know this, Sadie, but the reason why coding is something that is so great to be doing with LLMs is because it's something that it's really easy to train LLMs to be good at a really high level, because you know if the code executes, it works. You kind of have the answer. So it's easier to simulate like multi-step, very long problems. And that's why earlier when I was talking about the length of human task doubling that AI systems can do every 7 months, that is only on these kinds of tasks like computer science or machine learning tasks, where you have a very clear sense of whether the thing worked and whether you can simulate training data that allow you to continuously expand the length of what these models are doing for a lot of real world tasks in most industries. To collect those data is just so crazy expensive to have humans creating those data that yes, it's happening, but way, way, way more slowly than those areas where we can simulate the data really
Mhm.
effectively. Alrighty. Okay. So those are our winners. It's time for the predictions. What's going to happen in 2026, Sadie? I believe that like last year, you have 5 categories for us.
I do. I have 5 themes, and it's not 2025, but oh well, here we are. So number one, I think we're going to see again. I know we're going to AGI, and this is going to make it sound like we're going back to narrow AI, but I think more like specialized industry models, like AlphaFold. So I think we've reached the limit for now until we build out some of these hyperscaler clusters, but really the limit on data for training these like general purpose models. And back to your comment on why we see agents and LLMs do so well in coding is because we can actually measure it and see that it works. We need to have more specialized models for particular domains and then have domain experts evaluate those. And so I think we're going to start to see more development of specialized models for particular domains. And you could think of them as like mini models. But the way I think of it is like we have human intelligence, right? And there's like a general intelligence that we all have that get us through day-to-day life. And then we have people who go and get PhDs in particular areas or just are savants at a particular area. And I think that while for some reason nature has selected that path for us, that we each have our own specialization, I think we'll start to see that happen now in model development as well. And so I'm interested to see how this unfolds, but I think that's how we're going to make progress, is getting more specialized, kind of like expect more AlphaFold moments in particular domains.
Nice. I like that. And it is interesting that you bring up the AlphaFold example. It may not be coincidental, but that is an example of, while very narrow, artificial superintelligence, because it's a humans, no matter how hard we try, you can't look at a sequence of amino acids and predict what a three-dimensional protein will look like. We just can't do it. But AlphaFold can. Not for every kind of protein, but for a very broad range of proteins with remarkable accuracy. And yeah, so artificial superintelligence, yeah, so these kinds of very specialized industry models could, yeah, become more and more prominent. We could see more and more examples like AlphaFold, where in these very narrow niches, a machine vastly outperforms human intelligence capabilities.
But think about it, how do we get to like an overall general superintelligence? probably by combining these mini models of particular domains together to get there. But right now, one of the hardest things about some of these general intelligence models is really being able to test them fully in their subdomain. And so I think that it's just splitting it up. Maybe half of it is the training, and then half of it is the testing in a way that we can actually evaluate them more properly. So
Nice. Makes a lot of sense, Sadie. All right. What's number 2?
number two is continual and nested learning in models. So this is a new paper that just came out from Google. It is called nested learning, hence the prediction from it. Again, but back to Google being hot this year and last year and coming back with some of their research. I'm really interested in this paper because one of the issues that we have today is we train a model, and other than it remembering what's in our context window, it's not continuing to update and learn for me. And so nested learning is a way to bypass that and get around it. And so I think we're going to see a lot more progress in this space with how do we get models to continue to update and continue to learn, because that's what makes humans really great about being able to learn and grow, and what makes our intelligence so strong. So why wouldn't we want that in a model as well?
Makes a lot of sense. Really big innovation there. Yeah, that continuous learning is a big gap in most of the, certainly all of the big LLMs from the frontier labs. They don't continuously learn. It's a huge exercise. And yeah, that is a function of biological intelligence, is continuous learning. So pretty cool. I like that one a lot. What's your number 3 prediction for 2026, Sadie?
Number three, and it's my bias is coming in, but we're going to get back to research. So I don't think that any lab right now, um, any frontier lab, has a clear path for what is going to be our next big breakthrough in AI. Again, back to my comment earlier, you know, before we kind of saw the roadmap, oh, wait till we get a model that's multimodal. Wait till GPT-5 comes out. I don't hear anybody talking about GPT-6. I don't hear anybody really talking about like what's the next thing they're really waiting for from an AI model. And I think that we have to get back into labs to discover it. And I think we're waiting to have a clearer picture of what that may or may not look like. And a lot of this comes from the recent interview with Ilya on the Darkesh podcast, and just his estimates too, that there's still a lot of labs that don't know exactly what that path forward looks like. And I think that we're going to run into some limitations with some of the hyperscalers, not necessarily from a compute standpoint, but from a data availability standpoint. And so it's time to get creative and get back to research. And I think is really just an exciting time because it means that new ideas are welcome. And so it's a good time to be in the space.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, for a long time, the de facto scale that we were scaling up on was number of weights in a model. 10xing that, 100xing it, you were getting magical capability improvements. As notably done from GPT-2 to 3 to 4. And yeah, and then more recently, like in 2025, there was a lot of, 2024 even more so, there was a lot of excitement about scaling inference time. And so, how long do these reasoning models reason for? And those, reasoning times did expand a lot in 2025. And so we saw really impressive results on, math and chemistry, Olympiad kind of results. Yeah, and just in general, these kinds of supposedly very hard benchmarks like humanities' last exam have started to look tractable thanks to long inference times. But I think you're right. I think that, some kind of orthogonal breakthrough beyond just scaling has got to get us to the next level. And I think continuous learning is potentially part of that. And I don't think this is going to happen in 2026. If it does, that would be a huge breakthrough. It would be something that allows algorithms to learn in a much more sample efficient way. So, humans, even infants, can learn from one example, or even infer something from 0 examples. So a child who isn't even old enough to speak but can kind of walk around, if that child, if there's an adult carrying a bunch of heavy looking objects and they're kind of walking into a closet door, that child can't even speak but will open the closet door for the adult. The child is able to infer the intentions of the adult in a scenario that the child has never seen before. And so that kind of 0-shot learning, or 1-shot learning, or few-shot learning, we have those terms in AI, but those terms only apply when you're kind of providing examples in a context after the LLM has learned from billions and billions of examples. And so, yeah, I think some kind of breakthrough that allows for way more sample efficient learning is critical.
You must be peeping at the next prediction.
Oh, yeah? Well, I have no idea what they are. Seriously, for our audience, I have no idea what Sadie's going to say next. All right, number 4. Sadie, what is it?
Yeah, so I know there's been a lot of talk about robotics, and I keep saying this prediction that I think
you bought a Neo robot, didn't you?
Yes. So it's supposed to come in 2026. I don't have a date, but I know this year when this episode comes out. So I'm very excited to take my robot for a walk.
Wild.
But I don't think that 2026 will be the year of the robot. I still am standing true to what I say, which is 2027 will be the year of the robot. But I do believe we will see more physical AI and spatial intelligence, and particularly spatial intelligence, because I think we need to branch off into new data sets. And so, things like world labs and simulation of environments, right? I think that's going to be a new playground that we're going to explore as a new data set. And so really looking at of like, how do we bridge the gap between real physical AI and getting a robot to work in space. Again, this is where the continual learning will come into with these models as well, right? Because when you go into a 3D environment, you're encountering a lot of things that, as all of us know, with driving or walking and different things, that we have to continually update our model for. And so I see physical AI, spatial intelligence being a space that will be really popular, but mainly from the standpoint of just helping us to collect new and harder data that we don't have today, that can finally help bring our AIs into the world and really start to expand the use of these models.
Nice. I love that. It was after we had recorded last year's episode, but before we'd have released it, I was at NeurIPS in Vancouver, and Fei Li was one of the keynotes, and like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, a huge auditorium packed full of people, watched her talk about her company, World Labs, that you're describing right now. And this is, it's very expensive to collect these big real world data sets, but absolutely essential to be able to be training the machines of the future. Because right now, all these frontier LLMs, they are capable of being helpful inside of a computer. But if you want some robotics application, some real world spatial application, yeah, the hard work of collecting all those data and getting the machines going is key, and getting your Neo able to water all your plants, if I understand that's a key application you are looking for from your robot.
Yes, sir. I have a plant wall at the office. Well, actually, 2 plant walls. And so I do need somebody to take care of these plants, which will be great.
Nice. All right. And then 5th and final prediction for 2026. Sadie, what is it?
Yes, drum roll, please. And I love to bring it to practical application for work, which is what will be the kind of new hot trending job. And I think we're going to start to see AI ops become a thing. So AI operations, think of this as like how are somebody who manages the GPU model orchestration, right? Agent reliability, think of it from a function of DevOps in 2010 to, the AI ops of 2025, 26 era. And so I think this is a job description that we'll start to see pop up. I don't know if it would be what I call the most popular one, but I think it's going to be a new trend that we'll see emerge here in 2026.
Nice. I like that one as well. AI ops, quite practical for all of our hands-on practitioners out there listening. So yeah, so to recap, specialized industry models, continual and nested learning, research on the next big breakthrough, spatial intelligence, and AI ops. Sadie, thank you so much yet again for doing a predictions episode. I hope that I can wrangle you to do it again next year. I always enjoy this episode so much. Please, absolutely. That would be great. Maybe we can even do that partway through the year when you have your robot. Maybe I can be in California with you, and I don't know.
Yes,
we can figure that
come out to our new studio. That will be, once we get it set up, Neo will let you in the door.
So cool. I can't wait to see it. I'm so jealous. And so, as you know, I always ask for a book recommendation at the end of every episode. You already gave one in this episode, The Thinking Machine, Jensen Huang, NVIDIA, and the World's Most Coveted Microchip. Incidentally, turned out to be my overall winner of 2025. Do you have any other book recommendation for us, or do you want to go with that one?
I'm going to go with that one, and then my book, Becoming an AI Orchestrator. So.
Of course. Yes.
They just pair really, really well as a Christmas gift.
Yes.
Those will be great together. The other one I would say, I'll add a bonus one. The Innovator's Dilemma, I feel like, is a really good one right now, tying us back to the beginning of the episode where you talked about intelligence is on this exponential curve, and we mentioned that we need to rethink business models. I think that book does just a great job of highlighting how once you are an established business, it is difficult to reinvent your business. And so I think it's just a relevant book for everybody right now from a standpoint of how do we rethink our businesses with AI.
Nice. I like that recommendation as well. It seems like something I need to be reading. Gosh, I wish I could read all the books that people recommend on this show. That seems like a really useful one for me to be able to sink my teeth into, because it is a dilemma that I face all the time. All right. And yeah, of course, your book, I'll mention it by its full title again, Becoming an AI Orchestrator, a Business Professional's Guide to Leading, Creating, and Thriving in the Age of Intelligence, on bookshelves now. Check it out, people. Get it. And other than your book, where else should people be following you, subscribing to you going forward, Sadie?
I'm having a lot of fun on Substack this year, mainly because it's direct to people's inbox. And I just started my YouTube channel doing weekly videos on just like deep dives in my favorite tools in AI. So I have one coming out on Gemini Pro this next week. So I'm having a lot of fun with those two platforms right now.
Nice. Substack and YouTube. And I imagine people should be following you on LinkedIn.
Of course. The good old streets of LinkedIn. Come say hello. Just don't throw your bot on my comments.
Yeah, I block you. You do that to me, you're blocked forever. See ya. All right. Sadie, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to an exciting 2026 in AI and robotics and consciousness research and book releases. So much fun sharing this time with you again, as always.
It's always a great time. So Happy New Year, everyone. And here's to another great year.
5 years in a row, and I continue to love these annual look ahead predictions episodes with Sadie St. Lawrence. In today's episode, we covered how her 5 predictions for 2025 largely panned out. Agentic AI dominated, AI integrated into major everyday devices like AirPods, scientific research expanded with AI, enterprise monetization remained crucial, and AI engineering skills overtook traditional data science skills in demand. My wow moment of 2025 was watching a crew of AI agents build a functional stock trading platform in 90 minutes. For Sadie, it was using Lovable to generate her entire HMCI.ai website with a single prompt. We awarded Google a comeback of the year again for becoming the frontier AI lab to beat for the first time in years, thanks to its Gemini 3 Pro and Nano Banana Pro models, while in Sadie's book, Vibing was the overall winner of 2025. In terms of Sadie's predictions for 2026, number 1 was that we'll see more specialized industry models emerge. Think AlphaFold style breakthroughs in specific domains rather than big general purpose models, partly because we've hit data limits for training massive generalist systems. Number 2 is that continual and nested learning will advance significantly, allowing models to keep updating and learning rather than remaining frozen after training, a key gap between current AI and human intelligence. Her third prediction is that labs will return their focus to fundamental research because scaling, like model weights, inference time, etc., is no longer the clear provider of the next big AI breakthrough. Number 4 is that spatial intelligence and physical AI will gain momentum as researchers explore 3D environments and simulation as new data sources to bring AI into the real world. And fifth and finally, AI ops will emerge as a hot new job category. Think DevOps, but for managing GPU infrastructure, model orchestration, and agent reliability. As always, you can get all the show notes, including the transcript for this episode, the video recording, any materials mentioned on the show, the URLs for Sadie's social media profiles, as well as my own, at superdatascience.com/955. Thanks to everyone on the Super Data Science podcast team, podcast manager Sonia Brejevich, media editor Mario Pombo, partnerships manager Natalie Zhaisky, researcher Serge Massis, writer Dr. Zara Karche, and our founder Kirill Eremenko. Thanks to all of them for producing another fantastic episode for us today to kick off the year, for enabling that super team to create this free podcast for you. We're deeply grateful to our sponsors. They and you are what allowed this show to happen alongside us as a team. So consider checking out our sponsors' links in the show notes to support the show. If you ever want to support the show directly by sponsoring it yourself, you can get the details on how by making your way to johnkrohn.com/podcast. Otherwise, support us by sharing this podcast episode with folks who would love to hear about it, review it on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube, subscribe, but most importantly, just keep on tuning in. I'm so grateful to have you listening and hope I can continue to make episodes you love for years and years to come. Till next time, keep on rocking it out there, and I'm looking forward to enjoying another round of the Super Data Science podcast with you very soon.